It was a quiet Thursday morning on December 15th, 2014, when the city of Sydney, Australia, was shattered. The Lindt Café, nestled on Martin Place, was alive with the usual morning bustle, patrons sipping coffee, workers taking a break, and the aroma of chocolate and baked goods filling the air. Behind the glass windows, the city seemed calm, but inside, a nightmare was about to unfold that would grip Australia and the world. Manharan Monis, an Iranian-born extremist with a history of criminal activity and radicalized ideology, entered the cafe armed with a rifle and homemade explosive devices. Witnesses later described him as calm, methodical, and unnervingly silent as he moved through the door. Immediately, chaos erupted. He ordered everyone to the ground, herded employees and customers into a confined area, and demanded compliance under threat of death. The captives, many on their phones, realized within moments that this was no ordinary robbery. This was a meticulously planned hostage situation. For the hostages, time began to stretch in impossible ways. Minutes became hours. Anxiety and fear interlaced with disbelief. Among them was one young woman, whose morning plans had included nothing more than coffee and conversation. Now, she was trapped in a small enclosed space, at the mercy of a man who displayed an unpredictable mix of calm control and latent violence. The captives whispered among themselves, trying to maintain composure, devising silent strategies, and watching the armed man with eyes wide open, reading every gesture for potential danger. Monis forced the hostages to live-stream statements and display flags, using social media to broadcast his demands to the world. He positioned himself strategically, aware that police would be observing from outside. Each movement was calculated, designed to maintain psychological dominance and control over the environment. The hostages were not merely captives of physical force. They were trapped in a psychological battle that would test endurance, courage, and mental resilience. The young woman and others in the cafe faced immediate decisions: comply, resist, or attempt escape. Resistance could trigger violence. Compliance offered only temporary safety. Every second was a negotiation with survival itself. Hostage survival experts later noted that victims in such situations must manage fear, suppress panic, and maintain situational awareness, skills rarely tested outside military or law enforcement training. Yet ordinary citizens, thrust suddenly into extraordinary circumstances, had to instinctively adapt. As the siege continued for over 16 hours, the woman observed patterns in Monis's behavior. He was controlling but not constantly aggressive, offering brief moments of opportunity. She noted small cues: when his rifle was lowered, when his attention shifted, and when he engaged with other hostages. This careful observation, combined with mental discipline, would become critical to survival. She whispered plans to those nearest her, discussing potential distractions, routes of escape, and ways to stay unnoticed. Police surrounded the cafe, establishing perimeter control and attempting negotiation. The Australian Federal Police and tactical units faced a dilemma familiar in hostage crises. Act too soon, and lives could be lost. Delay too long, and tension escalates, increasing the risk of violence. Commanders worked to gather intelligence, assess the threat level, and prepare a precise tactical response. Meanwhile, inside the cafe, each second stretched unbearably, the hostages' nerves fraying with hunger, thirst, and fear. When the standoff neared its conclusion, Monis's behavior became erratic. At approximately 2:03 a.m. on December 16th, the police observed signs that he was about to execute a hostage. Tactical units initiated a breach. Gunfire erupted, followed by an explosion as Monis detonated an improvised device. The chaos was immediate. Panic and smoke filled the cafe. The hostages scrambled, seeking cover behind tables, counters, and walls. In this moment, the young woman's earlier mental calculations, her observations of Monis, and her instinctive responses became a matter of life or death. She moved strategically, staying low, avoiding the line of fire, and using cover to navigate toward the exit. Screams and the sounds of bullets ricocheting created a sensory overload that would challenge anyone's ability to think clearly. Her survival depended on rapid assessment, physical agility, and the will to live despite terror. She observed injured hostages, the fallen, and the chaos around her, making snap decisions to avoid obstacles and stay within areas of relative safety. Eventually, she reached the doorway and exited the building, gasping for air, eyes wide, body trembling. Outside, police secured the perimeter, providing immediate medical attention to survivors and treating those who had been shot or injured. The woman was evaluated on site and then transported to a hospital for observation and treatment for shock and minor injuries. She had survived not because of luck alone, but due to a combination of careful observation, mental discipline, and the ability to act decisively under extreme stress. The aftermath of the siege left a city in mourning. 2 hostages were killed, and Monis himself was neutralized by police during the breach. Media coverage was intense, capturing the psychological trauma experienced by survivors, the heroism of tactical units, and the widespread grief in Australia. For the young woman who had survived, the experience left lasting psychological impacts. She participated in counseling, survivor debriefings, and public testimony, offering insight into the behaviors and mental strategies that contributed to her survival. Psychologists studying the incident emphasized that hostage survival is often contingent on 3 factors: mental resilience, situational awareness, and adaptability. The woman displayed all 3. She maintained awareness of her environment, observed her captor's behavioral patterns, and adapted her movements accordingly. Her story became a case study in survival psychology, demonstrating how ordinary civilians can endure extreme trauma and emerge alive. In the weeks and months following the siege, the Lindt Café itself became a symbol of resilience and collective trauma. Memorials were established for the victims, survivor networks formed, and the narrative of survival became central to public understanding of the incident. The young woman's testimony contributed to national discussions on crisis preparedness, emergency response, and the psychological effects of prolonged captivity. The Sydney siege and the woman's survival within it also sparked debates on law enforcement tactics, gun control, and radicalization. Monis had a history of criminal activity, yet he was able to carry out a meticulously planned attack. Experts analyzed intelligence failures, tactical decisions, and early warning signs, using the event as a reference point for improving public safety and crisis response. Her survival story, told in interviews and documentaries, emphasizes the human capacity for calm, observation, and action under pressure. She describes listening, noting micro-behaviors, and suppressing panic, illustrating how detailed mental strategies can make the difference between life and death in hostage situations. She survived not through passivity, but through active engagement with the environment and the threat, maintaining agency in a situation designed to strip it away. Even years later, the memory of that morning remains vivid. The city of Sydney remembers the victims, the fallen, and the trauma, but also the resilience of those who lived. The young woman who survived the Lindt Café siege exemplifies survival under extreme circumstances, a combination of mental acuity, observation, and courage. Her story, documented in interviews and survivor accounts, serves as a harrowing example of human endurance in the face of life-threatening danger. The siege remains one of the most studied hostage situations in recent history. Law enforcement agencies, crisis negotiators, and psychologists continue to reference survivor accounts, noting the interplay of fear, observation, and action. The survivor's ability to remain aware, think strategically, and act decisively contributed directly to her life being spared. Her experience highlights the unpredictable and dynamic nature of hostage situations, where survival often hinges on small, deliberate decisions made under extreme stress. The story of the Sydney siege survivor is a testament to human resilience. It demonstrates how ordinary individuals, when confronted with extraordinary danger, can endure, observe, and act in ways that preserve life. The incident also serves as a reminder of the importance of preparedness, mental discipline, and situational awareness. Her survival, though shaped by chaos, stands as a symbol of endurance and courage amid terror. Thank you for listening to horrifying survival stories. Subscribe for more stories of those who faced the impossible and lived.